Hi everyone. This week I wanted to talk a little bit about connection and how important it is to me just in general in life, but specifically from a spiritual perspective, because that's what I like to talk about on this channel. That's what we're all about. And it is actually something that is a very spiritual aspect of my life for me, and it's something that I have kind of increasingly over the years come to appreciate as a huge component of my spiritual experience. And it's something that I've over time realised more and more is possibly the most important thing for me in my life. It is possibly the most important value and just the experience or the state of mind that I am seeking pretty much through every single interaction and every single thing that I do in my life is pretty much aiming towards bringing me towards greater connection. So I think in the past when I've talked about connection from a spiritual standpoint, I've definitely mentioned how important connecting to other people is to me. That's definitely something that's come up over and over again on the channel, and I have made numerous videos about friendships on the channel because relationships with other people is so important to me. But I do think that primarily when I'm talking about this from a spiritual standpoint, I'm mostly talking about connection to divinity and connection to the divine. And if I'm talking about other people, I'm mostly linking that into my pantheism and linking it into an idea of divinity. And so I've mentioned this in various videos, and I'm pretty sure that I talked about this in the video that I made recently, which was a fairly comprehensive overview of what I mean when I talk about connecting to divinity and what it feels like to me to connect to divinity. So I'll link that up above. As always, when I mention videos, I do try to remember to link them up above in the little linky thing up in the top right hand corner. But especially because I have pretty comprehensively covered the topic of connecting to divinity in a more kind of transcendental, mystical kind of way in that video, I really want to focus in this video just on the value of connecting to other humans and the value of relationships more generally, and in and of themselves and as an end to themselves, because I definitely feel like treating my relationships to other people as part of a spiritual practice, in seeing them as part of a divine whole and part of a divine universe, that is valuable to me. That is something that I like to think about sometimes when I'm meditating on pantheism, when I'm thinking about how I believe that everything is divine. But the value that I place on connection with other humans, it runs a lot deeper than that, and it is something that I would absolutely value as much as I do, even if I had not turned out to be a pantheist, even if I had not gone down an overtly spiritual route, even if I didn't have a spiritual practice, and if I didn't have a kind of active practice of deciding to see the universe as being divine and thinking about my experience through a pantheistic lens. I absolutely think that my relationships with other people and the connections that I form with other people would definitely still be the dominant drive in my life. In fact, there is definitely a possibility that I might never have found the need to come to pantheism and paganism and overt spiritual practice to kind of satisfy certain needs in my life, because this idea of connection to other people is so strong for me, and it actually really does satisfy a lot of the needs that I think my spiritual practice also satisfies. I think the main drive for me to create a spiritual practice was in feeling a greater desire to honour and celebrate the connection that I feel to the world around me and to nature. And it actually came about at a time in my life when I was maybe valuing my relationships with other people a little bit less. I was going through a phase of feeling a bit more skeptical about my connection to other humans and about how central I was making it in my life, I think. I think we all go through turbulent times in our 20s, especially with regards to our connections to other people. And I had been hurt a lot by different people throughout my life for different reasons. And I think I was in a fairly skeptical phase of just feeling like the connections in my life were... I definitely had some great friends, don't get me wrong. I've been lucky enough throughout my life that there have been very few times in my life when I really didn't feel like I had a really good friend. But I still think that I had developed this idea that I had maybe been focused too much on just the social, on other people in my life and what other people thought of me. And I think to some degree that was true. And I wasn't kind of valuing that as much. I was feeling like I had misplaced my energy and my focus in that way. And I really wanted to look at the bigger picture. And all of that definitely still stands, but I think I've kind of come full circle now in my early 30s to a point where I've started to realise that while the spiritual practice and the connection to a much bigger concept and a connection to much bigger ideas is always going to be really, really important to me. That is a really, really important facet of my being and the way that I think about the world. It always has been. I've always been somebody, since I was a very, very small child, I've always been somebody who enjoys thinking about big picture concepts and very big abstract ideas about infinity and the size and nature of the universe and all that kind of thing. I still think I've kind of come full circle in realising that to me the world would be the most hollow if I lost a sense of connection to other humans. There are a lot of things in this world that I find really truly amazing and awe-inspiring. There really are, and I go through phases of being more or less awe-inspired by life. If I'm in phases where I'm very, very busy and very stressed, then I may be a little bit less so inclined to feel awestruck and excited and curious about the world. But it is kind of a basic state for me. It is something that I do come back to again and again. But I think that the main thing that has always fascinated me about the world and our experience of it is our consciousness and our nature as conscious beings, and the fact that we are self-reflexive and are able to reflect on our surroundings and on the world. And that is what makes me so excited to continue to engage with the world around me and to continue to learn new things about the world around me, because I don't like to take that for granted. I like to always remember that this is a really strange and wondrous gift that we have of reflection, of being able to think and notice things around us and think abstractly about them, and actually wrap our heads around, to some degree, around the size of the universe beyond what we can actually physically comprehend, like using our senses and that kind of thing. I don't like to forget that. I always like to kind of bear that in mind, and to bear in mind just the scope and grandeur of the universe in general and how much we don't know about it and so on and so forth. But the central thing, like I say, for me is just the wonder of consciousness at its core, and the wonder of the way that our minds work. And I think it kind of follows fairly naturally from that the most exciting thing then for me that I can do with my conscious mind and with that ability to engage with things outside of myself is to actually engage with another mind, is to connect with another human, with another person who is also reflecting on the universe, another pair of eyes of the universe, so to speak, because that is one of the ways that I really like to think about individual consciousness, is as the universe looking back on itself. And when you have two humans who are really connecting and are really seeing each other in a deep way, when you realise that another person is really on the same page as you, that they've really understood the emotional complexity of something that you've said, or that they've just gotten some sort of... It's a very hard experience to put words on, because to some degree, and this is what is so wonderful about it, to some degree it actually does transcend language, this sense of being seen by another person, this sense of being understood. And I definitely experienced this in a wonderful way online, through comments from viewers and through watching other people's YouTube videos and just generally online. But there is a limit to how much you can experience that without being face to face, because you're relying solely on language, you're relying solely on the words that you can communicate back and forth to one another. And I think that there is nuance to that in the poetry that people choose to use in order to describe their experiences and so on, and certain kind of metaphors and similes and ways of describing things can show you that another person has had an experience that is very similar to yours, and can give you a kind of snapshot of just how much in tune with your idea that they are. And that is very, very exciting. But I think that there is definitely another level to that when you're in person, when you're actually interacting with somebody in person, that you get this kind of non-verbal level of emotional attunement and a sense that the other person is actually really seeing you and really connecting with you. And that, to me, I have come to realise is probably the most exciting thing that I can experience in life, because to me, consciousness and being an aware human is such a gift. It's such a strange and wonderful gift, that the fact that I can actually reach out into the world and contact another person and have them see me at the same time and have us both understand how strange and wonderful this is at the same time. That is, it's just the pinnacle of experience for me personally. Like, that is the most exciting thing that I can experience on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, since I came back to Ireland, I've noticed that rather than focusing on new connections, which is what I thought that I would be doing mostly, I've actually been going through a phase of reconnecting with people and kind of reigniting old connections that I once had. Now, this might seem like an obvious thing to you. I'm coming home to a country that I lived in for 26 years before I left it, so like, why wouldn't I be reigniting old connections? But actually, a lot of people that I once knew have moved away. Most of my closer friends from Ireland have actually moved away from Dublin, so it's not that I've got a whole like wealth of friends to be moving back and meeting again, but the couple of people that I have been seeing again, that has been really above and beyond my expectations, and that has become really the sole focus of my existence outside of my PhD right now. But I've also had a few kind of unexpected experiences. I've been really appreciating especially one person or two people, but really in particular one person in Edinburgh who is a very, very close friend of mine. I've been really appreciating how our closeness is rare and valuable, and how we've managed to maintain that even at a distance. And I've also found that even people who are abroad, that are in other countries, that just for some reason I'm in this stage of my life right now where we are reconnecting, where we are healing old wounds, and just starting to recognise, I guess, just the value in everything that we've shared with one another and in the connection that we have had over the years. And I think I'm just in a phase of my life where I'm really finally starting to recognise a really valuable connection when I see it. And I haven't always been able to see that. And I think it's easy to, like I say, be skeptical and also to maybe get carried away with the kind of light-hearted connections that we have, our drinking buddies, so to speak, the people that we have fun with. And that's very important too. I love having those people in my life that I can just, sit back, have a laugh with, chill out with, have a few drinks with, go dancing with, be hedonistic with. I love those people too. And I would definitely, I value all of the different friendships in my life for different reasons. But I really do feel like I've unexpectedly entered a phase in my life where I am encountering other people in a new way. I am suddenly feeling much more open to levels of connectivity to other people that I hadn't even realised was necessarily possible. And maybe it's just because I'm realising how important that is to me and that I'm starting to value it when it happens. So I've definitely noticed that my spiritual practice hasn't necessarily picked up since I moved back to Dublin. I kind of hoped that it would, and I was trying to kind of make myself do a bit more with it than I have been. So I'm really excited at this point in my life to really start digging deeper into these relationships and to really start exploring what connection to other people can bring about. I spent most of my life thinking that kind of individual introspection is the way to achieve kind of enlightenment, or maybe enlightenment is too strong of a word, but a way to achieve clarity on what it is that is most important to us, or what we believe most, or that the most important insights in our lives can come from introspection. And over time, I've gradually realised that actually this is often not the case, that some of the most exciting insights that I've had in my life have been through conversations with other people, have been ideas that other people have posited to me and that we have arrived at through conversation with one another, and through those really deep connections where I'm able to talk about the things that are most important to me, to open up about things that I'm curious about or unsure about or just wondering about. And yeah, I'm at a point right now where I'm feeling like I really want to delve more into that. Once I have more time in my life after I've done the PhD, after I'm out of this kind of phase of hermitage, I really do want to dive deeper and be braver in what it is that I bring to those connections, and to allow myself to be truly vulnerable, because I think it's only when you're truly vulnerable in those situations that you can get the most out of them, that you can really delve deep into those topics and into those ideas and into sharing yourself with another person, and in return receiving some snapshot of their life and their experience and their existence. And that to me is undoubtedly sacred, and it's sacred in and of itself. It doesn't have to just be sacred through some broader concept of the world where everything is divine, so therefore this other person, your connection with them, is divine. To me, it is something that is important, deeply important and valuable in and of itself. You kind of become more than yourself and more than the sum of both of your parts, I think, when you have those moments of true, deep, meaningful connection where both of you are bringing things to the table that are important to you, that are going to change both of you by talking about them, and that are coming from some very deep and important part of yourself that you really value in yourself. So yeah, I think there are a few different things in my life right now outside of overt spiritual practice at an altar or whatever that are feeling like the main part of my spiritual journey for me right now. I mentioned travel, going to new places and experiencing new things, and getting to experience kind of metropolises and places and people that I haven't encountered before. I talked a little bit about that in a video before, about how that's been something that I've realised is important to me, and the novelty and the broadening again of your experience of the world and your experience of reality, and shaking you out of any kind of rut that you might be in. And that's something that I want to start to place more importance in as well. And that doesn't mean just having to do lots of air travel. That can very much happen at home. And something that very much needs to happen at home is the other side of my spiritual journey for me right now, which is this connection with other people. And I think when I have the time and the space, I'm going to think a bit more about how I can make something that feels more overtly spiritual out of that, how I can reflect on those experiences in a way that is just going to make them feel deeper and more important in my life, how I can make them more central to my life, and so on. And I really want to get brave with that this year. I really want to learn to open up more with the people that I already have these deep connections with, and just not be afraid to see where that goes and what kind of meaningful new experiences I can have through that. So thanks a million for watching. Thanks for being patient while I didn't record a video last week. I have been very busy and things have been a bit crazy, as I mentioned. Thanks as always for keeping up with me anyway, and for watching my videos, for liking and subscribing and commenting and asking questions and joining in the conversation and all of that. It's all very much appreciated. And hopefully I will talk to you again next week. If not, it will definitely be the week after that. I will be trying to do every week, if not every other week, for the foreseeable future. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon.